All right, what is up, ladies and gents? Jason Ward here, Ward's Way to Fitness, rocking my 8-bit Link shirt today. I am a big video game fan, particularly love the Legend of Zelda series. I've played pretty well all the games now. I haven't beaten them all. I got a few little things to work through in Breath of the Wild still, and I never finished Skyward Sword. But other than that, I'm pretty sure I played them all, and always a good time. Anyway, that's not what today's video is about, though, although maybe I should do some videos on video games and some of that stuff that I enjoy as well. But today, I wanted to give you the top 5 fitness fat loss tips. All right, so we're actually focusing more on the nutrition side because that's really where your fat loss is going to come from. All right, you cannot make progress by just hitting the gym. If you go to the gym and you don't monitor what you're eating, you're probably not going to make any progress. So we're going to talk nutrition for the most part in this video, as is my usual discussions. If you've got some fitness topics you'd like me to cover, though, please comment below. Before we get going, please remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel for future updates, and if you enjoy the content, of course. If you don't, move along. Maybe you dislike my video. Doesn't matter. All that stuff adds to my ability to get my message out there. So let's talk tips. Number 1. All right, first is probably the most obvious. You need to be in a deficit. Plain and simple. All right, if you are not in a deficit, you will not lose body fat or weight, period. End of discussion. I do not care what else is happening. If you're not in a deficit, you cannot lose weight. Now, this is also probably the most nuanced of all of the things I'm going to talk to you about today. All right, the thing with achieving a deficit is there are so many variables involved that you may need to consider. So, number 1 is your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate. Okay, this is basically the calories you would burn on a daily basis if you were in a coma. So if you did literally nothing but lay in bed, no movement whatsoever, eyes not blinking, so your eyes are closed, you're not talking, you're not really breathing excessively, then that would be your BMR. All right, so really just laying there in a coma, which I think many of us would like to be doing much of the time. All right, next, NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's a hard one to remember. This is like what I'm doing right now, moving your hands when you talk, excessive blinking, any sort of extraneous movement that you're doing on a regular basis. These are things we don't really necessarily think about, but that happen just out of your body's desire to move. So some people actually have a higher NEAT than others, and how much you're eating, how high your activity level is, all of these things can play a role in how much NEAT you have going on. All right, so you will notice that as people diet, their NEAT tends to go down. So you may notice they blink more slowly, they're not using their hands as much when they talk, and these things will all affect how many calories they're expending at the end of the day. So the longer you diet, the more your body will try to lower your NEAT so that you're not expending as many calories. It's trying to conserve them to help keep you alive. Right? So then, activity is another one. So this is where people think their fat loss is going to come from. But really, the first 2 are the bigger ones, right? So your BMR and your NEAT are really where your fat loss is going to come from. Activity will definitely play a role, but it's a much smaller role than people really realize. You think about it, average male is probably going to be eating between 2 and 2,500 calories on a diet, and a female maybe 1,500 to 2,000, depending on size, of course. There's lots of calculations for how you can calculate these things. And an average workout for these people is probably only going to burn 300-400 calories at the most, right? And if you're talking about cardio, like 40 minutes to an hour, again, may net you 400 to 600 calories depending on intensity, right? So the activity is a very small portion of your calories burned every day. To maintain my BMR is somewhere in the vicinity of 2,200 to 2,400, just to keep me alive with my current muscle mass. And so I can eat a lot more, obviously, and I would expend a lot more when I'm doing my activity than an average person would. But there's a 300 to 400 calories is a very small percentage of that number, right? So you can obviously keep adding in more activity to burn more calories, but we all only have a finite amount of time every day. So intake or activity is not the best way to lose body fat, right? Your nutrition is going to be more important. You just can't outtrain a bad diet. All right? Your intake of food will actually affect how many calories you burn in the run of a day. So the specific foods that you select will have differing effects on your body. So protein tends to have a higher thermogenic effect than fats or carbohydrates. And basically what this means is it takes more energy to break down protein than it does to break down fats or carbohydrates. And it takes a little bit more energy to break down fats than it does to break down carbohydrates. So these factors will play into how many calories you're burning as well. So you typically want to eat a higher protein intake, but I'll get to that in a bit. So the specific food choices that you make as well will affect how many calories you burn. So spicy foods also tend to have a higher thermic effect. So they will burn a few additional calories. Now these things are very little difference. Right? I said activity wasn't making much of a difference. The thermic effect of food may give you an extra like 5 to 10 calories burned. It's really not that big of a difference. So it's not something that you should be focused on when you're trying to achieve a fat loss goal. All right. So now moving on, that is number one, and that was be in a deficit. It is not easy to calculate, but that is the number one and most important. So number two, we're talking about protein now. Eat protein, a lot of protein. So this is something I keep hammering on in a lot of my videos, and a lot of people I've talked to / interacted with online have been like, most people are getting enough protein in North America. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm sorry, you're wrong. Okay? They're probably, potentially getting enough protein to keep themselves alive, but they're not getting enough to function optimally or to lose body fat optimally. So, minimum target for pretty well everybody I ever work with is going to be 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. All right, that is your minimum target in my opinion. The lowest I would ever go is about 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, of lean body mass. So the thing is that 0.8 is usually for people who are bulking. I don't like to use that for people who are dieting. I prefer to see people have a higher protein intake because it's more satiating, so it's going to keep you full. It is the building block of all of the tissue in your body, right? You need proteins to rebuild from your workouts and repair, and without those proteins and essential amino acids, you could be running into problems with recovery between workouts. And if you can't recover, you can't train harder, and you will not continue to make progress. All right? So protein, very, very important. You probably also want to focus on making sure you're getting all of your branched chain and essential amino acids. So the branched chain amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And these three are extremely important for muscle building. If you're not getting enough of those three, it's going to be hard for your body to repair. So if you're following a vegan or vegetarian diet, you need to pay even more attention to these because you're not getting good sources from your food. So it's a good idea to take a supplement in addition to your meals in order to get those targets. Okay. Essential amino acids are basically all the ones your body can't make itself, and you may need to pay attention to that as well. There is some conjecture and talk that perhaps just taking the branched chain amino acids will not be enough because there's an interrelatedness between all the different amino acids, and we may need all of them coming in order to really facilitate a lot of the processes in the human body. But it's all relatively unknown science at this point because we really cannot dig too deep into how all this stuff works. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and there's not a lot of money in it. So people are not really going to be doing that research. All right, so that's your protein. So again, 1 gram per pound minimum, right? Maybe as high as 1.25 grams per pound, depending on how deep into your diet you go. So the longer you diet, the higher the percentage of your calories should be coming from protein because you're going to be dropping calories from somewhere else. That protein should stay high. All right, so that's number 2, protein. So be in a deficit, protein. That's what we got so far. You still with me? All right, moving on. Number three, I always start by lowering carbs. All right, so if you are not following your diet, you hit a wall, you hit a plateau, you're not making progress anymore, and you want to change something in your diet because you still have calories to play with, then the very first thing to go is going to be carbohydrates. That's the first thing I recommend reducing. The reason for this, as I just discussed, protein, extremely important. We don't want to lower protein. Okay, that should stay high through the diet. All right. Protein is probably the last thing you want to lower as you are changing your caloric intake. Number two, fats. That's also extremely important. Fats are involved in a lot of our hormonal processes. Without enough fats, we will not be producing our hormones. And there is a satiety effect with protein and fats together that you just can't get from carbohydrates. Even when carbohydrates are combined with protein, you just don't get the same satiety effect. So for most people, there are perhaps exceptions. I have seen people that do very well on high carb diets and still continue to lose weight. But for most people, I have found that it's better to focus on protein and fats than it is to focus on carbohydrates. So lower carbs first. All right. So that's our top three so far, right? Be in a deficit, get enough protein, carbs are the first to go. All right, moving on. Number four is make small changes. All right, this is probably the biggest mistake I see when people are trying to lose body fat or dieting or whatever the case might be. They try to do a massive overhaul. They change everything. And this includes activity, this includes their food intake, and then they hit a wall. The better approach is to make a little change and then watch that make a difference for a little while. And when you plateau, you make another little change and you keep going. Making these little changes as you go will make a much bigger difference. So you really have two options. You can lower your calories or you can increase your activity, right? I don't like to lower calories forever. Sometimes I prefer to try to increase output instead. In fact, I would probably increase output if possible before I would decrease intake, right? It's just most people like to eat more food, and it's easy to add in extra activity if you have the time. If you don't have the time, then obviously you have to take away from the food. And so there's a balancing act that I play based on whatever the client's needs are. Okay? So you could, for example, add 10 to 20 minutes of cardio once per week. That could be your first little change, right? That's not a lot of time. Most people can find that. You can do it after a weight training session. You could do it, get up early in the morning and just go for a walk outside, which is also a great idea, by the way, or whatever. There's lots of different ways you can incorporate cardio into your lifestyle, and that could be a simple change. Just once per week to start, and that should restart the fat loss, right? If it doesn't, well, then you can make another change. The other thing is give it at least a week to 2 weeks for the change to start. Don't make a change and then 3 days later, this isn't working, I'm gonna do more. It's not, you have to give your body time, right? It needs to adjust and adapt, okay? So at least a week, probably 2, and then you'll probably start to see some more progress again, all right? And then the other option you have is reducing your calories. So as I stated previously, carbohydrates should go first and 100 to 200 calories. So we're talking, it's about 25 to 50 grams of carbohydrate. Right there would give you a good drop that would probably kickstart your fat loss again. All right, so that's number 4. So we've got be in a deficit, get enough protein, carbs go first, and make little changes. All right. So, number 5. Last one here is utilize diet breaks. So this is a concept that's starting to gain more popularity recently. I think it's not a great idea to perpetually diet for extended periods of time. So if you have a lot of weight to lose and you really are struggling to stay in a deficit, taking a diet break can help. It gives you a mental reprieve and it allows you to start the process again in a better headspace and start moving forward again. So the idea with a diet break is to take 1 to 2 weeks and be at a maintenance level for your calories. So you take your new body weight. So say you've lost a few pounds, you take your new body weight, you figure out what your new calorie target should be. And that's going to be your maintenance for those 2 weeks. Okay. So ideally during those 1 to 2 weeks, your body weight doesn't change. So you stay right where you are, you let your body get used to that, and then you get right back into dieting again. So I usually recommend doing this every 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how long of a time frame you have available, how aggressive you need to be with your dieting. There's lots of factors that go in there. But diet breaks can be a great mental reprieve and can help you continue to make progress long term. All right? So those are our top 5, right? Be in a deficit, get enough protein, lower your carbs first, make small changes, and take a diet break. Okay? I'm gonna throw in a bonus for you guys. I know a lot of people really enjoy cheat meals, and on occasion, I don't mind incorporating them into programs, but I feel like cheats or treats or reward meals kind of reinforces poor behavior, and I would prefer to see you just incorporate those foods into your regular diet anyway. So you could have like you have your caloric budget, and then you just incorporate whatever foods you want into that caloric budget instead of going on this wild calorie feasting process. This can have benefits, but often comes with consequences. So it's not my favorite strategy, and I will generally only use them in extreme dieting situations. So where you're in a very, very large deficit. But it may be a strategy that you want to incorporate. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned some stuff. If you liked the video, again, please like the video down below. Leave a comment. Go follow me on social media. All the links will be there in the description below. And ask questions if you've got them. So you can email me for consultations. If you want some help with your diet or you have some fitness questions, feel free to message me and we can hash out what I can do for you. All right, you guys have a marvelous day.